Mr. Chair, we are not aware if...
None. Therefore, on the first issue of Section 8 being violated, it has not been violated. It has been complied, Mr. Chairman.
Chair.
Mr. Chairman, very clear. After the ERC reverse its 2011 decision to allow the pass-on of franchise tax, 3%, they have now come out. And therefore, under the principle of the law of the case, that what is allowed before it is changed, before it is questioned, is legal. Ngcp legally, passed on the 3%. Mr. Chairman, in baseball, strike 3, strike out.
The Honorable Rufus Rodriguez for his second round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the second round. I just have really only 5 points, which have been tackled very, very, lengthily in these proceedings. First, the first 3 points pertain to allegations of violations of Ngcp, of 3 important provisions of its franchise. Let me start, Mr. Chair. So 3 about the franchise. 2 will pertain to the Constitution. And we are going to proceed to that after the 3 that allegedly were violated by the Ngcp. First, Section 8. It has been alleged by some of our colleagues that there is a violation of Section 8, which is about dispersal of ownership. May we know from our chair of the ERC the final determinative decision on this supposedly Section 8 dispersal of ownership. Can you tell this honorable committee what was the final decision?
ERC.
Mr. Chair, I think as discussed earlier by the members who were part of the ERC at that time, the majority approved the mode of dispersal aside from the extension that was provided under Section 8 of the
Right.
franchise.
So therefore, there is no violation of Section 8 because 4 out of 5, the majority and 3 are here, decided that indeed the proviso, a proviso, Mr. Chairman, in law, are exceptions to the main provision. The main provision is through public offering. In other words, to have offering of shares to the public. The second one is through stated proviso, exception, the listing of a PSA of any company having 30% term. And so it was decided, therefore, well, of course, there is a dissenting opinion. And of course, the dissenting opinion of Mama Seda is always very good, as all dissenting opinions are. They're always, they give out the other reasons. But unfortunately, in this country, the rule of law provides that in the collegial body, like the ERC, the majority will have to prevail. And therefore, my question is, that is now the final decision. May we know whether any entity, any organization, any person has questioned this decision, which said that the Ngcp has complied with Section 8. May we know if they have gone to the Supreme Court on this. Is there any question? Was there?
Mr. Chair, we are not aware if...
None. Therefore, on the first issue of Section 8 being violated, it has not been violated. It has been complied, Mr. Chairman. Very clear from ERC itself. So, what are we talking about in terms of dispersal? There is now a decision which has become final, no question to the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court. That is now the law of the case, and it cannot be relitigated under the principle of res judicata. Second, Mr. Chairman, there is allegation that the provisions on taxes have not been paid. This is now Section 9. So we're through with Section 8. Clearly, Ngcp is compliant. Section 9, tax provisions. We have the franchise tax of 3%. There have been talks that NGCP is liable to refund to the people and to the consumers the 3% tax collected from 2011. Mr. Chairman, may I now know from the ERC chairman, is it not that in 2011, the ERC has approved the pass-on provisions that the franchise tax is passed on? And therefore, in other words, their collection for that has been legal, and I thank the new ARC because you have already made some decision wherein last 2022 or 23. 2023, that is the reckoning period. So may I now know whether is there a liability of the NGCP for the franchise tax that were collected being passed on from 2011 to 2023? Can we have the answer?
Mr. Chair, we have been asked to study that by Congress. So we are still evaluating that.
Of course, that is not the answer because it is by law. The law was the ERC approval of this pass on. So there can be no study on that. The decision of the regulator is that they can pass on. Now you have made another regulation, maybe no. From the time that you sent, did NGCP already comply with no more pass on of the franchise tax? Maybe not from you.
They complied, Mr. Chair.
But Mr. Chairman, very clear. After the ERC reverse its 2011 decision to allow the pass-on of franchise tax, 3%, they have now come out. And therefore, under the principle of the law of the case, that what is allowed before it is changed, before it is questioned, is legal, NGCP legally, passed on the 3%. So now clearly we have the new regime, and therefore they have to comply. That is the regulator. So therefore, the alleged violation of Section 9 tax provisions has no basis on the law and experience of the case. We go now to Section 7. Section 7 is about cross-ownership. IPIRA law provides for the prohibition of this percentage and so forth. Is it not, Chair De Malanta, that this bill provides for exemptions already to the rule? And therefore, what is stated in the IPIRA has now been overtaken and repealed by a later law and more specific law. This is now the franchise NGCP. Can you restate again what you have said earlier?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. There is, as far as the transmission operator or transmission concessionaire is concerned, there's been an amendment of that cross-ownership provision.
Mr. Chairman, in baseball, strike 3, strike out. So, Mr. Chairman, let's now go to the other issues. Because I have waited here and listened to the issue because, Mr. Chairman, if there's anything Congress will do, it is to give due process to everyone who comes here, and we follow the law and we follow the Constitution. Constitutional. It is stated, the chairmanship of the NGCP by a Chinese citizen violates the Constitution. I will now read to you, Mr. Chairman, the exact provisions of Section 11, Article 12. That is on franchises. It states, Mr. Chairman, the participation of foreign investors in the governing body of any public utility enterprise, such as NGCP, shall be limited to their proportionate share in the capital. And all the executive and managing officers of such corporation or association must be citizens of the Philippines. This is what is referred to by some of our members. SEC, can you please tell us whether chairmanship of any board is an executive or managerial position?
We have here an SEC opinion. It stated here that an alien national may assume the post of chairman of the board whose act shall be limited to that of a presiding officer during board meetings. So, if chairmanship, foreigner may be allowed as chairman of the board, but it should be qualified that his act should be limited to that of a presiding officer of a board meeting. So, if his role involves managerial roles, that is already violative of the Constitution.
Very clear, Mr. Chairman. Strike 4, constitutional. Foreigners, as decided by the members of the board, can be chairman. There are some limitations, but precisely Attorney Malyari said that he presides, and normally presiding officers do not vote. Mr. Chairman, clearly, the SEC has stated that foreigners, even minority foreigners, can be elected chairman as long as they preside. ERC, did you find any violation? Right now, you are now the new ERC. Did you find any violation of a Chinese being chairman of the NGCP?
Mr. Chair, we have not, that is not part of the reset, so we have not evaluated that. With the request of Congressman Kimbo earlier, we will include it in our report once we study the shareholder structure as well.
Well, you have to be guided by the proceedings of the Constitutional Commission. That certainly membership in the board and chairmanship is not an executive or managerial position. And there are many other companies which have foreigners as chairmen. So your answer is that nobody has questioned this with you, correct? Has anybody filed a case against NGCP for the removal of this Chinese chairman? Has there been a case filed?
None, Mr. Chair.
How about the old board? I would like to hear Commissioner Maceda. Has there been a case filed in the ERC, you being the regulatory body, that says that, this Chinese should be ousted because he's not allowed by the Constitution? Has there been a case?
Well, from the time I joined the ERC, Your Honor, in 2018, I've not encountered any.
None, because nobody can question this, because this is constitutional. So clearly, fourth issue, which had been ventilated, Mr. Chairman. Okay, and now, going to the BIR, to the issue back on taxes. Oh, where's the BIR? The BIR. Because the BIR, with Commissioner Romeo Lumagi, attended the Ways and Means Committee hearing the other week where I am a member. And what was the statement? I'd like to get confirmation BIR so that we will know that Section 8 has been religiously been complied as far as franchise tax is concerned. O asa na, nag-CR na naman. Well, without waiting, Mr. Chairman, I have here the revenue RMC 124, what was submitted. The answer to the question of violation of the franchise tax provisions, the answer of Chairman of Commissioner Romeo Lumagi is that the NGCP is fully compliant with the payment of all franchise taxes. You see? So now, I go to the last point, Mr. Chairman. Constitutional. Now, the issue now, and I'd like NGCP to answer this. The issue now is national security. But because the Chinese own 40%, there are allegations that there is a switchboard in China, that they will just close the entire country's supply of energy. Mr. Chairman, national security is not found in the Constitution. National security is provided for by words like national interest, economic development, socio-economic solidarity, national security is not there. But that principle, Mr. Chairman, pervades the Constitution that primarily foremost in the country and the administrators of this country is national security, and that is why in the Constitution, the first article is national territory, because we have to defend our territory against any aggressor, including the West Philippine Sea, against these Chinese illegal trespassers of our West Philippine Sea, as decided already by the International Tribunal of July 12, 2016. The 9-dash line of China has no basis in law and in fact. They lost in 8 counts to the Philippines. And we thank President Pinoy for filing that case in the International Tribunal in Den Haag. National security. Oh, is it true that, these Chinese are going to, because if you say it's true, I will call for the revocation of your franchise. Can the Chinese close any of the 3 control points of the NGCP in the 3 islands of the islands of the Philippines? My island, the land of unfulfilled promise, Mindanao, the promise of the interconnection has been done. That's why I am grateful. We will know. Is there a switchboard that is held by the chairman, Chinese, in Beijing? Is that correct? Let us have the answer. So that this is the national security concern, which I am also concerned, because we do not want China to have, a grip on our energy system. None, Mr. Chairman. Let's have the answer, officially. You are under oath. Can the Chinese minority owners, can they sabotage our country by just stopping supply of energy to any part of the country? Answer, please.
They cannot, Mr. Chair.
Also, the answer of Mr. You're a lawyer like me, so let's give it to the more technical ones. Come here, Mr. Aguilar. Sometimes us lawyers would tend to, know everything, but this is something that is pertaining now to national security and the fact that these Chinese can never come to one of your control system site and go there and turn off the grid in Luzon, or go to the Visayas, or come to the city of Golden Friendship, my city of Cagayan de Oro, to be able to stop the supply of electricity in Mindanao. Can you now explain to us under oath what is the situation? Can they do it?
Yes, sir. They cannot control the power system of the Philippines with a single button. Yes, sir.
Is there any switchboard or control being held by people in Beijing or even in Guangzhou, nearer to us, that they can, interfere in the supply of energy in the Philippines?
None. None, sir.
And if they try to come to the 3 points, are you going to shoot them, which I suggest, to sabotage our supply? Will you do that, Mr. Aguilar? Do you have a gun?
He's Mr. Agustin.
Mr. Agustin. Oh,
I may not.
will you allow a Chinese like me, singkit looking,
Yes, sir.
to go there and then, disperse with the 3-man team and then put a button that will stop supply in Luzon? Can that happen?
We will not allow that to happen, but I think we will not shoot them, sir.
We should shoot them if they do that, because that is part of self-defense. So, Mr. Chairman, with all these testimonies from, first, the ERC, second, the SEC, third, the BIR, through my statement, and the NGCP. So, Mr. Chairman, in this committee, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? What do you want to do with NGCP? It has complied with all of the requirements of the franchise. It has complied with the Constitution. So that is what the question is, but you don't have to answer.
Thank
Because that is the prerogative of the Committee on Franchise to look into all the franchises of this country and be able to evaluate their performance and have even a motu proprio investigation. So thank you so much for
Thank
the
you very
opportunity,
much.
Mr. Chairman. Again, Cagayan de Oro and Mindanao is thankful for the interconnection of our lines to the Visayas and to
Thank you
Mindanao.
very
Thank you.
much. The Honorable President is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have only short manifestation since we have the motto proprio for NGCP, no? After this hearing, maybe in the next 2 hearings, pag wala ho tayong resulta na hindi bumaba ang presyo ng kuryente natin, ay wala rin ho mangyayari. That's why when we came here with Congressman Dago, naka-prepare kami some solutions, some formula how to lower the price of electricity. I hope when this has been said and done, sana po hindi masayang po itong ating hearing. So I'm also in favor sa majority na mga questions nila. But at the end of the day, it's about the presyo, no? Yung mababang kuryente. So I hope, Mr. Chair, in the next committee, in the next hearing, matakal din natin because we prepared a lot of questions how to lower the price of electricity in the Philippines. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the Honorable De Jesus. Since there are no other interpellators, the
Mr. Chair,
Honorable the other
I
power
will
block.
consider this motion, Mr. Chair, in line with the national security issue. May I move, Mr. Chair, for the NGCP to submit yung protocol nila sa operasyon sa mga control center at saka yung mga tauhan na nakaman. Titingnan natin kung may Chinese doon. Yung protocol nila, alam na ng NGCP anong ibig kong sabihin, protocol. So I move for the submission of that, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion duly seconded? No objections. The protocol requirement is requested from NGCP. And dami nyo kailangan i-submit before Tuesday. Mabuti, maalala ho nyo at huwag nyo naman ho kalimutan ulit. At anyway, a notice will be given again by the COMSEC. So there being no other items and nobody would like, is there anyone that would like to speak? Add, ERC, meron ka bang gustong sabihin? ERC,
Wala na po
DOE,
from our end.
DOE, SEC. So it's been 7 hours and a half. And this is only the beginning. As I have emphasized in my preliminary remarks, the Committee on Legislative Franchise remains committed in ensuring franchise grantees are prepared to deliver essential services under their franchise grants and compliant with their obligations and responsibilities to the public. That is number one. In exercise of its oversight function, the committee is mandated to determine whether or not laws passed upon it are being implemented, carried out in accordance with the intent of Congress, whether or not they should be continued, curtailed, or eliminated. With all due respect, with the opinion of the Honorable Rufus Rodriguez. The subject of the inquiry is on the performance of National Grid Corporation of the Philippines and compliance with its franchise grant under Republic Act 9511. There are several issues today that is well within the jurisdiction of this committee to state. 1. Violation of the franchise, particular Section 8 of the dispersal of ownership. As stated by SEC, the IPO requirement within the prescribed 10 years has not been complied with, resulting to the concentration of shares to few individuals and entities, which was not the intent of the law. The management and control of NGCP are given to Chinese nationals that pose high security risk to our sovereign. 3. Delays on the NGC projects prejudicial to its customers as manifested by ERC, by DOE, cost of incomplete projects were already collected to the consumers and higher prices resulted because of those delays. 4, NGCP revenues were given as dividends and questions on propriety of franchise tax collections in lieu of other imposable taxes. To shed light on this issue, the committee directed the submission of documents and attendance of additional resource persons in the next hearing. Medyo gabi na po. Alas 9 na. Kung gusto nyo, alas 12 tayo dito. Okay lang ako. Pero kailangan ko po bumalik sa aking distrito. The committee will suspend this hearing and will schedule another hearing for to give our resource persons ample time to comply with the submission of the required documents. As always, due process shall be given to everyone and as manifested by every member. But let me assure you that we're here really to ensure that this franchise, which is supposed to be for the good of the Filipino people, is really truly happening. Example, alam po ninyo yung sinagot ko kanina ni, parang hindi ako makapaniwala na kaya sagutin nung Mr. Aguilar? Mr. Agustin. Pati ako, nagkamali na rin ako. Mr. Agustin. Because as stated by the Honorable Ngcp earlier, I don't think he's really in a position to know if kaya ng China, dahil ang gumawa ho nito ay ang China. I don't know if he's really in a position to say. Of course, sabihin niya, hindi. Of course. But that's something that we have to look at. As the Honorable Rufus is fighting for our share of the West Philippine Sea, which is truly ours. Okay, 100% ours, not even a share. But to be able to fight, and he's been wanting to fight for it, has been fighting for it for so many years. So, like him, all of us are concerned that national security issues, high electricity rates. I think the power block will also agree with me. And I'm saying this from experience as chairman of the Committee on Franchise for 3 years. Na kung saan po lagi po pag pinag-uusapan ang matataas na kuryente, ang lagi pong tinuturo, regardless kung sino po ang DU, iba-ibang klase ang mga DU, ang laging tinuturo ay NGCP. That's why medyo ako'y nababahala na ngayon ay sinasabi ay hindi naman para NGCP. Pero sa lahat ng hearings namin, ng lahat, kung tinatanong, ba't ang mahal na singil mo sa iyong mga customer? Bakit? Whether kooperatiba yan, whether, di ba? Even during the hearings of Meralco, franchise, pinag-usapan yan. At lahat, ang sinasabi ay ang NGCP. So yan ay dapat talagang pag-aralan po. Kasi ang talagang hangarin ng ating committee ay maibaba ang presyo ng kuryente. So hinahanap po natin lahat ang mga pwedeng posibleng sanghi at rason kung bakit mataas ang kuryente dito sa ating bansa at isa sa pinakamataas sa Southeast Asia. So ang pagbaba ng kuryente is really the primary objective. Paano? At sinasabi ng power block, maraming sangay na kailangan pag-usapan. Pero we have to start from somewhere. Dapat magsisimula tayo. So, ang talagang napag-usapan ng committee to a motion na magkaroon ng motu proprio hearing ay ang NGCP. So, ulit sa inyong lahat, alas 9 na po.